Morning, everybody. I hope you're well. Today, we're going to talk about a concept that has given me a lot of understanding of myself, as well as help me understand how to navigate and work with other people and understand maybe what their motives are, or maybe even like motives that are hidden to them, or help them maybe bring something to the surface that they can't see. And the idea is really, it's best expressed in what's called the Benjamin Franklin effect. Benjamin Franklin said that if you want someone to like you, if you want to be in their favor, get them to do something for you. So, in other words, rather than being nice and trying to appeal to them and trying to get them to like you in that kind of way, the easiest and quickest way is to get them to do you a favor. And what he understood is what cognitive therapy is really all about. If you go out and you look up cognitive therapy, it's a very effective form of therapy for a lot of people. And the idea is that the mind doesn't like incongruencies, does not like when things aren't sort of smooth and rhythm and where they're supposed to be. So, in other words, when you get that person to do you a favor, let's say they didn't like you or they felt ambivalent towards you. Well, in their mind, they're going, why am I doing this person a favor? And they resolve it by telling themselves, oh, this guy's a typically good guy, or they're a nice person, or whatever it might be. But what they're doing is they're removing the incongruency from their mind. Doing a favor for someone they're ambivalent or maybe worse, feel bad about, that incongruency, because of the mind's need to have smoothness, it resolves it by adjusting the feelings. In other words, it resolves it by adjusting what it has control over and what it's affected by. And that's what goes on. When there's an incongruency, there's a weird feeling, and the mind wants to sort of smooth it out. I mean, think about the times where you've been lied to. When you were deceived, likely there was something that told you something isn't right here. There was some incongruency. And rather than sort of dig deeper into the incongruency and discover what's really there, you just chose the easier route of, well, I like Bob, or this is an okay situation, or I'll deal with the consequences. Whatever it is, you did something to smooth out that moment. And likely you regretted it later on when the deception occurred or whatever it may be. In this particular lesson, what we want to look for is incongruencies. This will be a very powerful tool for you as you operate through the world to be able to smell out someone's bullshit, to be able to, say, avoid or make a decision earlier than later, before you step into the shit, before the problem becomes big, whatever it might be. That's really the idea, is to start to listen to this inner voice and discover, where is the incongruency? Is the incongruency in something I'm being told or shown or persuaded? Or is the incongruency inside my own reality? And as we start to look for these incongruencies and congruencies, we start to realize that we're much more subject to believing our own bullshit than we think we are, and being deceived by other people's bullshit than we think we are. And what we've really become really good at is sort of ironing out whatever incongruencies it may be. I mean, if you think about it, think about the last sort of argument you had with someone, intense argument. And when you left it, you were working out in your mind the conversation, and you were reliving a lot of it. And you started saying things differently. You thought about what you could have responded with. And you needed to do this so that the mind could find some congruency. And oftentimes it settles on a version that it's your truth, but let's not call it the absolute truth or the actual truth of what happened in that moment. This is really why the exercise is great. Because as you start to understand your own incongruencies, your own bullshit, and you're able to detect other people's incongruencies, you can then start to use those as leverage points. And the assignment for this particular lesson is, when you see an incongruency, when you see someone saying one thing at one moment and then later on doing something different. Ask them about it. Whatever it may be, ask them about it. I'll say, well, earlier you said this, but now you're saying this. I'm a little confused. Can you help me out? What happens at that moment typically is because the person wasn't really prepared for that question. They weren't, they shifted eyes from the beginning and now they're giving me a different version, or a different eye is sitting in front of me. And when I bring out the two eyes and I show them to each other, typically what happens at that moment is the truth comes out. And so being able to understand incongruencies and understand and look for the bumps in conversations, look for the bumps in relationships. It doesn't mean I can't look at one bump and go, oh, this is what it means. I'm looking for clusters of behavior that would be indicative of something that's going on. And when I ask about someone's what appears to be an incongruency to me, it either allows them to explain to me what I may not have understood, or it reveals something that they were wanting to keep hidden. And, I have a rule: if you assume it, ask it. And this is what happens a lot of times. When we see the incongruency in someone else's behavior or their words or their message or whatever it might be, what we do is we just assume something that allows us to smooth it over. What I'm doing is I'm asking you, don't assume at that moment. When you see that incongruency, just ask him, hey, do you mind? I'm a little confused. Would you please explain to me? Earlier you said this, and now you say this, and I'm not sure I see how they fit. And I personally think that you'll be pleasantly surprised and happy with the results that you start to get when you start to ask about the incongruencies that you see in other people's messages. So hopefully you're still doing some form of the multiple eye exercise of the cues. And what I might do is use this incongruency exercise as one of my cues. When I see or hear or whatever I see in a message or hear in a message or whatever, perceive in a message, some incongruency, I'm going to stop. I'm going to check my own limbic system first. What am I feeling? My mental state, what am I thinking? My action state, what am I doing? And then I'm going to ask them about the incongruency. So I hope this lesson has been useful. On that note, I hope you guys have a fantastic day.